See, this time it's actually saying we're going live. This
Oh,
now it says you're live. All right. All right, friends. I think this looks a lot different. So fun fact for everybody who is now watching. Um, well, we just did a live episode. We did a whole live episode, Susan and I did. And we crushed it. We were like, yeah, that went well. And then I got off of the live stream and I never hit record. I never hit go live. So that was kind of a hey, but we're here now. We're live. We might be 30 minutes late, but you know what? We're here now. We've showed up. So welcome everybody to the Ask an Accountant podcast, where we demystify accounting by simply asking your pressing questions to the industry's best and brightest. My name's Tony Wilson, your host, quirky friend, and total accounting nerd. Today I'm joined by Susan Burt, the owner and entrepreneur at Aligned Books. They specialize in providing bookkeeping services to chiropractors and health and wellness practitioners, along with other people. Susan and her team of 3 hail from the wonderful city of Shakopee, Minnesota. So they've got 2 amazing bookkeepers, and I say amazing, and I mean amazing bookkeepers. Am I right, Susan, or am I right?
you're very right.
I am right.
Very right. Amazing book.
And you also have a director of security,
I do.
a little 20-pound terrier named Angel.
Yes.
And
Yes. She's my little dog.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's not in the room right now, right?
She's out of the room because I didn't want her barking. But
Yeah.
yep, she lets me know anytime anybody is on the premises. She gives me a warning. Somebody's around. So
Well, somebody's got to, right? I mean, that's the job of a director of security.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Now, Shakopee, that's one of those city names that if you are not a Minnesotan, you're not going to pronounce it right.
That's correct. Most people don't know how to pronounce it if they're not from here.
Yeah, it's interesting. Minnesota does have quite a few city names that you're like, how do you pronounce that exactly? Like Faribault, Faribault, Lake Mille Lacs. What is that? Anyway, I digress. But the important thing to note is that even though you are a Minnesotan, which I for one think that's amazing, if I may say so myself. Even though you are a Minnesotan, you still serve all of the country. Is that right?
Yes, I can. I serve everyone in the country. I work virtually. My team is all remote. So we use a lot of technology and we can help anyone in the country.
Perfect. That's good. Yeah, and that's one of the great things I think about. One of the good things from coming from the pandemic is I think a lot of companies are a lot more open to virtual services and virtual bookkeeping in particular. So I think that's awesome. So Susan, you've spent the last 15 years in corporate America, and the last 2 years in particular running your own bookkeeping business.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us just a little bit about that story? Like, how did you get to where we are today?
Sure. Well, I started out my accounting career working in a nonprofit at a church. I did that for about 3 years. Then I moved on to work for a private corporation, an engineering firm, and I did that for about 5 years. And then from there, I moved on to working for a very large corporation called C.H. Robinson, where I worked my way up to senior accountant.
Wait, you worked at C.H. Robinson too?
I did work at C.H. Robinson. I
we
think you worked there too,
I
right?
we did. Yes, we did. And the funny thing is that we didn't get to know each other until after we had both left, despite the fact that we were literally in the same building, in the same department, just on 2 different floors.
Yeah, right.
And
I was on the
that's
second floor. You were on the third floor.
mhm.
We never knew each other
Yeah,
till afterwards.
that's usually how that goes. But I will just say it's been so much fun getting to know you and becoming your friend, because for anybody who doesn't know Susan, she's just an all-around awesome person. So there you go. Um, well, so now Susan, you run your own bookkeeping business now,
Yes.
and the thing that I think has been really cool in watching your journey is your recent kind of switch into, or not super recent, relatively, within the last year, specialization and niche into a particular industry. Do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about what that industry is and who you serve?
Yes. Yes. So I specialize in working with chiropractors and health and wellness practitioners. I find it's very important in this industry as a bookkeeper to specialize so that you know the intricacies and the nuances of each industry, so that I can really help out my clients um, with all things financial. So,
Yeah. And that is so important. And hopefully when we get into some of the more specific questions down below, you guys will be able to see, how beneficial it can be to have somebody who specializes in this niche. But, when we're talking about health and wellness, I mean, obviously I know what a chiropractor is, but can you tell us a little bit more about like who is that health and wellness professional? Like what do they look like? What do they do?
sure. Well, it could be like a holistic practitioner, it could be a functional medicine practitioner, physical therapist. I have a Pilates studio as a client. So, kind of that anything that falls under that umbrella, really.
Sure. Got it. Got it. Well, very cool. So, given your specialization in the chiropractic and health and wellness professions, in serving those folks, I've got a couple questions for you.
Sure.
So, my first question for you is, when is it time to hire somebody versus just doing it yourself? The bookkeeping in particular.
Right. Well, I'm going to say as soon as you start your practice, because, well, a few things. One of the services that I also offer is I can help you get your practice set up. So, getting set up with the state, your tax ID numbers, all of that I can help with. But from a bookkeeping standpoint, you really want to get set up properly right from the get go. If not, and you try to do it yourself, you might end up with a big mess, and that will cost you more later on. One example I can give you is a new client I recently took on and got working in her books and realized that she had been duplicating her income. And so I asked for her tax returns, and sure enough, her income was overstated on her tax returns. So I informed her of that, and we got it cleaned up. And she's able to amend her tax returns and get a bunch of money back that she overpaid in taxes. So
That's
it's
awesome.
really important that you do it right from the beginning.
Yeah, no, that is so totally the case. And it's interesting you should say that because as accounting professionals, as finance professionals, I feel like we can kind of take for granted sometimes the stuff that we know. It's just kind of like breathing. We just do it kind of naturally. But if this is nothing you've been exposed to before, sometimes it can be tricky to navigate. Setting up your chart of accounts and doing it in a way that's like easy to use and all
Right.
that kind of stuff. So that is really really good. So hire right away. That's what I'm
Hire
taking
right
from you.
away.
Okay,
Hire
got
right
it.
away.
Good to know. So if we know that we need to hire somebody, then I guess the next kind of logical question would be, you know, do I bring somebody in house? Do I hire a bookkeeper like to have as an employee? Do I have my staff person do it that's already on staff at the front desk? Or do I outsource it? Like, what goes into a decision for
Mhm.
that?
Well, I think if you can find someone that can manage, do the front desk and receptionist and taking appointments and do the bookkeeping, that's great. If you choose to outsource, then you're not dealing with things like turnover because if you're hiring in-house, there's, as we all know, there's a lot of turnover and it's hard finding the right people for the right position. Um, so with the outsource, Align Books is here. We've got a whole team. It would be uninterrupted service, of course. Plus, there's other things to think about, like having a separation of duties,
Hmm.
multiple sets of eyes on your books. So my team will first do the bookkeeping, and then I look over everything and review it. And then typically your tax preparer is going to review it. So then that can reduce any chances of things like embezzlement
Hmm.
or stealing. We don't like to think about that, but it can happen. So that's just something important. And it also can cost less to outsource because you're not hiring an employee and paying perhaps benefits and the employee taxes or employer taxes, I should say. So there's can be a cost benefit there as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I can definitely see that. And going back to like one of the first points that you made about just the turnover and the employee retention aspect. If you were to bring that in-house, I think that's an especially important thing for us to keep in mind in this particular labor climate, right? So as of the time that we're filming this, like, the Great Resignation is all around us. And finding qualified people to have as employees is hard. And even more hard is making sure that they stay with you for the long haul. So Susan, I think that point certainly resonates with me, and maybe for others who are watching, that could resonate with you as well. Working with an outsourced professional can absolutely help to maintain that kind of stability, just from a service that's being provided. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
absolutely.
And another thing you had said too is you'd mentioned just that piece of, I guess, like additional controls that come in place when you work with an outsourced provider as opposed to hiring in-house. And then you'd mentioned the thing about just like cash, misappropriating that cash, whether it's like stealing it or something like that. And that can't be understated. Like that is super valuable when it comes to working with an outsourced provider. There's just more eyes on it. So I think that's
very important. Very important.
Yeah, that's good. All right. So we've talked a little bit about outsourcing. We talked about we should probably hire right away. Also, it's probably helpful to outsource it. But hold on. Susan, my CPA is doing my taxes. They're doing my books, aren't they?
Well, let me let you in on a little secret. CPAs and tax preparers really don't like doing bookkeeping. They specialize in doing taxes, and they spend a lot of time and energy learning the tax code, which is very, very complex. And they specialize in that, and they specialize in doing tax returns. They really don't enjoy doing the bookkeeping. If people come to them and their QuickBooks file is a mess, things need to be fixed, they really don't have time for that, and they don't want to do that. They especially don't like if somebody comes to them with a box of receipts. That's a really awful thing to do. So really, having a bookkeeper, all of that stuff, all that legwork is already done and ready to go for your taxes. So
yeah, that is so good. Well, take it from this CPA, although I'm not like a tax professional, but take it from this CPA, Susan is absolutely right about that. We love working with people like Susan who do the books because it frees us up to be able to do kind of that higher touch stuff, just like what she said, doing the research, keeping up to date on all the codes and what have you. So very, very true. So if I'm hearing you correctly, don't just assume that a tax preparer is doing your books.
Correct. Very correct. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and maybe even just give us a little bit of an insight too about so we're talking about keeping tax books, but something that I think is really cool about and really beneficial about the service that you provide is you're there with them as they run their business, giving them some meaningful insights in terms of how they're running their business. Can you maybe speak a little bit about what that's like as you're working with chiropractors and health and wellness professionals?
Sure. Well, one of the things I do beyond just bookkeeping is, doing financial statements and reviewing those with the practitioner. It's very important that they know how their business is doing. Are they profitable? Are they not profitable? Are there things that need to be changed? Are they spending too much in one area? Are there places where they can cut spending or perhaps make more money? So there's a lot of that's also involved in the bookkeeping aspect of it. We're not just data entry number crunchers. This is very much a relationship business, and it's very personalized service that we give to our clients.
Yeah, that is so good, and you're spot on with that too. It's delivering those insights on a regular basis. One of the things I tell people is when you think about giving your tax return or telling the government what you made, the government is not in the business of making sure that your business is thriving, right? So when you think about preparing books just for taxes, like that's not going to be your best way of driving your business towards more growth. It
Mhm.
is going to be driving you to more growth when you're working like what Susan's talking about and you're reviewing your numbers on a regular basis and making meaningful decisions.
Right, right. Because oftentimes, you're working with a CPA or tax preparer, and once a year you get to learn what your numbers are. But that's not really helpful in the here and now.
Mm-hmm.
You really need to know how your business is performing so that you can make good, solid business decisions, such as, can you hire more staff?
Mm-hmm.
Can you pay yourself more? Can you purchase that new piece of equipment? Those are all things that need to be done in your practice, but do you know if you can actually do those things?
Mm-hmm.
Can you actually afford it?
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that we can help you with.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Susan, when we were talking about a bookkeeper and specifically a bookkeeper who's providing this kind of ongoing service, is it safe for me to assume, as a chiropractor, a health and wellness professional, is it safe for me to assume that the bookkeeper is going to take care of my medical billing for me?
Mhm. Generally speaking, no, and that's something that my business does not do. Medical billing is a specialty in and of itself, and we do bookkeeping through QuickBooks, and QuickBooks is not HIPAA compliant. So it's very important that the medical billing is done separately and that no patient information is ever put into QuickBooks because that would be it, that it's not HIPAA compliant.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you told me about that, I was this is just like a couple days ago. You told me about that, and I was like, really? I first of all, I had no idea that that was a thing.
Mhm.
Second of all, I wouldn't even thought to be like, oh, is this platform HIPAA compliant or not? Um, but this just goes to show everybody working with somebody who specializes in a field like chiropractic and health and wellness is super helpful because even if she's not the one doing the medical billing, she at least has an appreciation for things like HIPAA that are going to be impacting you as a provider, and then making decisions and being mindful about handling your data sensitively. So that's really
Yes,
good.
yes,
That
yeah.
is really, really good.
Very, very important in this industry.
And speaking of industry specializations, are there other things, as you get to know the industry better and better, you network with different people, are there any things that you have come across that are helpful? Maybe not something that you do yourself, but something that you find is super helpful for these practitioners and professionals.
hmm Yeah, well, every industry, not only just the chiropractic industry, but every industry has their own intricacies and nuances about it. And so, one of the great things about specializing is really getting to know what those things are and being able to help my clients with those things. One thing I've come across that I've learned about is the R&D credit, which is available to a lot of chiropractors and health and wellness professionals. And that is something that perhaps not a lot of tax preparers even are really aware of. But I personally don't do taxes, but I am aware of that, and I know people. I can connect you with people that can calculate that for you, what your credit would be.
Yeah, and that's what you just said though, connecting the people.
Mhm.
I think that's something that's super important to keep in mind as well. When you talk about the benefit you get from working with an outsourced bookkeeping professional, it's not just what that one person does. It's
Mhm.
also all the people that they're networked with and they're connected with, and that they're keeping tabs on. So you catch wind of a special R&D credit that somebody could benefit from in your field, and you're able to then be like, hey, I'm not going to be the one to do it, but I know three people who can do it for you, and I can get you connected up with them. Like,
Yes.
that's so valuable.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I have a lot of people in my network. So I've got, the people that do the R&D tax credit. I've got CPAs and tax preparers that I can refer to. I have someone that does merchant services specifically for the medical and health industry, and those merchant services are HIPAA compliant as well. And so it's things like those that I make sure I have all of those specialties in my network so I can help my clients with those things.
That's awesome. That is super great. Susan, thank you. I should really say thank you again for doing another live stream, because this is live stream number 2. Well, live
Number
stream
2.
number right. Well,
Yay.
thank you so much for taking that time to chat with me. So I'm gonna pose the same question that I posed last time, so you can think a little bit more about it. But if you have parting words of wisdom, and I'm thinking specifically for those fresh graduates coming out of chiropractic school, looking to launch their practice, what words of wisdom would you give to those people?
Right. And those are, in particular, people I really love to work with, because I love to get a solid foundation going and get their business up and running on the right foot. But it is really important to know your numbers, know how your business is performing. You might have a great practice and a great chiropractor and have plenty of clients, but if you don't know how to manage your money or know your numbers, so many businesses go under. And I know it's in chiropractic school, you learn all about the chiropractic, the ins and outs and how to do all the things. But you don't get a lot of financial or business education. And so that's one thing that is greatly missing in that education. So that's something where we can step in and really be your partner.
Yeah. Know those numbers. You got to know those numbers.
Know the numbers. Know the numbers. And know what to do with the numbers.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Awesome, Susan. Well, as we wrap up, is there a place where people could go to connect with you? Is that Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, email? Where are you at?
Sure. So you can find me at my website is alignedbooks.com. All my contact information is there. And you can actually go there and schedule an appointment right from my website. I'm also on Facebook and on LinkedIn. Otherwise, you can also email me at susan@alignedbooks.com.
Awesome. Susan, thank you so much. I hope for everybody who has tuned in, I hope you found value in our episode today. If you have a pressing accounting question that you would like future guests to answer, you can email them to me at tony@equip.com. That's ACCQUIP.com. Also, if you are an accounting professional or you know an accounting professional who'd be interested in coming on the show, please reach out to me as well. And on that, I want to thank you again for tuning in. And as always, keep your clothes on.